Good day, everyone. Really good to have you in this recorded session. My name is Craig Howie. I'm the Technical Director of Digital for AECOM based in South Africa. I run a digital project delivery team here in South Africa that works on projects both locally and internationally. And we're currently busy on projects in a couple of different locations, obviously in South Africa, in Canada, in the Middle East, and also in the United Kingdom. The team that I manage is made up of a couple of BIM coordinators, BIM managers, and information managers. And we use Autodesk BIM 360 and ACC fairly regularly. Also, we use a lot of Navisworks. The team that I work with is very passionate about BIM 360 and ACC, as well as Navisworks. So really looking forward to presenting this topic to you today. Just going to hand over quickly to Namit for him to introduce himself.
Thank you, Craig. And hi all, nice to have you all here. My name is Namit Ranjan and I'm a senior implementation consultant with Autodesk. I'm based out of Bangalore, India. I'm a civil engineer by academics, but by profession and practice, I've always been into BIM. I specialize in automation and computational design. This is my 4th year at Autodesk, and I serve as a subject matter expert for building-related products, together with the automation spectrum containing products like Dynamo, Generative Design, and Forge. Thank you, and over to you, Shashwat.
Thank you, Namit. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure meeting you virtually. My name is Shashwat Bharatwaj, Senior Implementation Consultant based out of Bangalore, India. I'm also a civil engineer by degree like Namit and started my career as a structural engineer in the power plant design sector and worked on many detailed design and construction projects. I joined Autodesk 4 years ago and currently helping Autodesk enterprise customers by innovating their design and construction workflows with AEC products and Autodesk construction solutions. I will now hand over to Craig to start with the EU class. Over to you, Craig. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Shashwat. Great, so we've got Autodesk on the call with me. So as is tradition, safe harbor statement applies. All right, so jumping straight into the agenda, obviously the topic is solving the clash between model coordination and Navisworks. We're going to run through a couple of different sections. The first one is looking at model coordination, the tool, versus Navisworks. And I'm going to give you some key insights as to how AECOM is making a decision between using either one of those tools or both. Then we're going to talk a little bit about clash avoidance. Obviously, can't talk about the topic of clash detection without clash avoidance. So we're going to talk through that. Then moving on to giving you some key insights around clash standards and processes that we're applying at AECOM. And then ending off, Shashwat and Namit are going to talk us through some reporting and dashboarding and how AECOM is using some of the dashboarding features. So jumping into the presentation, model coordination and Navisworks. So this has been quite a big question that we've been asking ourselves at AECOM over the last few months. The two tools, model coordination and Navisworks, obviously have a couple of features that overlap. And sometimes it's not all that easy to decide which tool to use. So just to run through some of the features that overlap. Obviously, both of the tools do model federation, so very alike with that. They are both model viewers. Obviously, the one is online, the other one is desktop-based tool. They both have an issue management tool of sorts. Obviously, model coordination is fully integrated with BIM 360 or ACC issues. And then you now have Navisworks. Obviously, traditionally, you would have used something like viewpoints as sort of a pseudo way of working with issues. But now you've got the issues tool in Navisworks, which integrates across both the authoring tools, Navisworks, and then obviously into BIM 360 and ACC. And then the last feature overlap is clash detection and reporting. So both model coordination has a clash tool. It does automated clash detection. So as long as you drop models in a certain location, it federates, clashes those models against one another. And then you've got sort of the Navisworks approach to clash detection, where you've got the clash detective. You go in, you set your rules, you set your clashes, you run those clashes. The following week, if you need to run clashes again, you go in and run those clashes over and over again, sort of manually, one would say. Then reporting, both tools do a level of reporting. There's certain reporting features within model coordination itself. It's fairly basic. You've got the clash matrix view that you can look at. There aren't really too many other sort of reporting dashboarding features around clashes themselves within model coordination. Obviously, you can do reporting around issues and that sort of thing, but there's fairly limited tools within the application for reporting on clashes. And then you've got Navisworks where you're doing possibly very detailed clash detection, and you can output reports from clash detection, from the clash detective. And from the clash detective, you obviously can also export various file formats that can get integrated into different dashboarding applications. So just to talk through the combinations of the tools. So you have model coordination standalone, which you potentially can use just by itself. You then have Navisworks, which also you can use standalone, sort of AKA old school Navisworks. We've been using Navisworks in the AEC industry and other industries for many years now. And then the sort of new approach is obviously taking model coordination and combining it with Navisworks. And yeah, obviously that's one of the newer approaches to working. And we're seeing a lot of positive movement in that space at the moment. So how do we decide on what tools to use and what combination of tools to use? So I'd say that there's most probably 4 factors that we're looking at when we choose which tool to use. The first one is size and complexity of models and of the overall project. And when we talk about complexity, that's got to do with sizes of models, it's got to do with file formats, it's got to do with quantity of models, and then also the factor is how many different stakeholders there are and how many models they're providing. That's quite a critical one on which route we go, either model coordination or Navisworks, or a combination of the two. The next one is reporting and dashboarding requirements. So if you have very basic reporting requirements, then a certain tool may be better. If you've got more advanced reporting requirements and dashboarding requirements, which obviously some projects have and certain clients have, you're going to sort of lean towards one of the other products. Then there's a level of customizability. So something like model coordination is very easy to use, it's very simple, but it's not highly customizable. And some teams do want that. And sometimes that's really a good thing to have stuff that's quite simple. Navisworks, on the other hand, has got lots of granularity. You can customize it a lot. You can exclude things. You can really get into customizing it quite a lot. And then obviously that customization remains within the file that you're working in. Whereas one of the challenges maybe with something like model coordination is it doesn't necessarily keep your settings that you're using, like a filter or something like that. Next time you open it up, potentially you have to go and reset things. So that's one key thing. The next one is team setup. Roles and responsibilities on a project obviously plays quite a big part around what tools you're using, and then in particular around clash detection, how you deal with clash detection. If you have a BIM manager on a project that is given the role of doing clash detection and given a lot of time to do clash detection, then potentially you're going to use a certain set of tools. If you are making, pushing clash detection and coordination activities back to project teams a lot more, which definitely we're doing in the industry at the moment, then you're going to possibly use different tools for that are maybe a bit more suitable. Then as far as skills go, do you have a team that's looking for a sort of basic tool to work with? Are you working with a team that's looking for a more um, advanced tool? What are their skills? Do you have people that never worked with Navisworks and maybe putting them on something like model coordination is a very easy win? Maybe you've got a team that's actually worked extensively with Navisworks in the past and you want to keep that experience and use it. And then the last one is licensing. So obviously there are licensing considerations when choosing which tool. And I think different companies are going to deal with this quite differently. And I think also different markets are going to deal with this quite differently. If I look at a market like South Africa and Africa, I think licensing will play quite a big part in which tools get used. And maybe that's not going to be exactly the same everywhere else, but definitely in a market like South Africa, you're going to see people wanting to use certain combinations, very much so driven off of initial outlay of licensing cost. Great, so if we look at the projects that we're using model coordination and Navisworks on, we have a combination of projects. We have schools, we have museums, we have shopping centers, even some sort of more civil infrastructure projects out of my group, like pump station, treatment plants, mixed-use projects, and some data centers. And those projects are located in different regions. So there's a combination of South Africa, Middle East, Canada, that we're using the software, and those projects are based in those locations. So what we generally do is we look at our project, we look at what sort of complexity is this project based off of the 4 factors that I shared on the previous slide. And we rate them as either a low complexity for using model coordination and Navisworks, or a high complexity for using model coordination or Navisworks. So out of all the projects that we've run so far, we generally feel that for basic projects, projects that maybe there's not too many different file formats, that models are relatively simple, where team structure is not overly complicated, model coordination is really powerful for those types of projects. And we're seeing really good traction on some of our more basic sort of mid-range projects with model coordination. The nice thing with model coordination is you can sort of set it up and then the team can use the platform, and it requires minimal sort of ongoing maintenance and that sort of thing from a BIM manager, which is really nice. On our more complicated projects, we're definitely leaning in more towards using a combination of model coordination and Navisworks. Having the models sitting in the cloud really helps with dispersed teams, and bringing in the power of Navisworks on top of that really is great. I've put an asterisk there under Navisworks standalone. So that's sort of like old school Navisworks, federating models that are sitting on your computer or on a server. We still do believe that there is most probably a place for that, where projects are very, very complicated, where there's many file formats coming in from different sources, and maybe where the project team is working in a different CDE and it's maybe not using BIM 360 or ACC as their primary CDE. So there is still a place for that. Okay, so once you've decided on what tool you want to use, you want to obviously start talking about prevention of clashes. So clash avoidance obviously always quite a hot topic, and that's really where we should focus a lot of our time. And then the clash detection part is obviously a lot simpler. So what we did is we went back and looked at what are the causes of a clash, and I must say there was there was a lot of alignment on what the teams thought around what is causing clashes. There weren't too many completely out there ideas. Everyone sort of knows what causes clashes. We believe that to be most probably front and center is just poor planning. Poor project planning really plays a big part in clashes. A level of lack of standardization, either in your corporate standards and how they're set up, or alternatively at a project level. maybe not having the standardization, or at least the clarity on what those standards are. Bad communication. A lot of clashes are caused by teams not communicating well with one another, either within a team or even certain teams communicating with other teams. So those three are really the big ticket ones that we felt. Then you've got scope misalignment. So we definitely believe that projects are still not maybe being scoped with the model first approach. So scope, definitely there is scope misalignment in projects, and this is not a thing that's unique to a company like AECOM. This is really common across a lot of companies. Then model experience is one that comes into play when you're seeing a lot of clashes. In particular, model experience around having forethought in what you're doing. So having awareness around what you're doing when you're modeling, and then understanding that, okay, I'm about to put a system into this area, but I've designed and I've modeled 5 projects like this already. So I know that there's going to be another service going into this location, or a unit here, or a wall here, or whatever. So model experience is definitely a factor. Then the last 3, and most probably the least the last 3, maybe not the most critical, but definitely players, is lazy modeling. Definitely some of the clashes we see is just modelers being lazy in the way that they work. The other one, which is quite a big one, is lack of collaborative mindset. So we'll have teams that sometimes are very much so working in a siloed approach to how they model or design, and they're only focused on getting their particular package out the door, and like will switch off models and just model their stuff and not really take into consideration sort of collaborative mindset to doing things. And the last one is limits of technology. We do believe that technology could still play more of a active part in how we do clash avoidance, and I'll allude to some of those a bit later. So talking about modular techniques for clash avoidance, we've got 4 specific techniques that we're trying to push with our teams. The first one is for MEP teams. So service zoning and service planning is really important. If you don't do it, you are going to end up having a lot of clashes. No surprise there. One of the approaches we're trying to do some sort of more schematic 3D massing of large services initially on projects. Very easy to move that sort of main run around quickly and get a very good idea of 3-dimensional services zoning. We then take that, once we've got that massing sort of thought out, and then document it in a 2D process just for future reference. We're finding that quite effective on some of our projects at the moment, where the team is actively and consciously applying that process. The next one is the dynamic use of section box tool within Revit. We feel that really can help you with spatial awareness, make you more effective in your modeling. You've also got good add-ins on the market like the Coins section box tool. One thing that's most probably still missing in Revit is a first-person option for navigating through models. We'd really like to see some improvements of how we view stuff in Revit in a more dynamic way. We sort of fly through the model like we would with other industry applications. Possibly that will never come into Revit itself, but it would be nice to have a live connection to a tool that's quite good at viewing models and driving sort of spatial awareness. So the section box obviously can get quite cumbersome when models are quite big, and moving the section box around can be a bit slow. So having that live connection would be really good. Then on the MEP side, one of the techniques we're trying to use more is within a BIM 360 with ACC environment. We, instead of teams, MEP-based teams sharing their models once a week through design collaboration, and then each and every individual MEP team consuming that model once a week. We sometimes, during certain periods of projects, live link the MEP. So our mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire, if we do have it separated, we'll have the other models live linked. We find that that provides a lot more of a dynamic environment. Now, we don't do that with architecture and structures. We're happy just seeing their updates maybe once a week. But within a sort of active MEP team, we're finding that that live linking does help. Then we are slowly trying to change our approach to how we segregate models. We've got ourselves in these very large projects into a habit of breaking up every single discipline into a different Revit model. And we're actively working on our MEP models to try to combine those into, instead of having 5 or 6 MEP models per zone, we're trying to compact those and see where there's synergies between different disciplines. Even trying to get modelers to model more than one type of service does help. And then the last one is screen setup. We did an interesting exercise, which I'm about to show you, to drive improved spatial awareness when people are modeling. And I think this this area is definitely something that can help with clash avoidance. So what we did is we did a bit of a fun exercise with the team recently. We asked them to do a screen selfie of what their screen real estate looks like. So not really the hardware, I'm not too concerned about that. Just want to see how people are laying stuff out on their screens. And are they laying their stuff out on their screens in an effective way to be productive in the production that they're doing? But also, do they have a coordination type mindset or an approach that is allowing for them to have a better spatial awareness as they're working? They've got very good spatial awareness of what's happening around them in the model. So one of the key themes that we picked up with this is a lot of, a lot of the guys had more than one screen, obviously. Everybody sent either 2 screens or 3 screen options. Felt a little bit jealous of, I've most probably got a bit of a lack of a good screen setup at the moment, looking at some of the teams' combinations. But one of the main themes that we saw was in a 3-screen process, as an example, which is on the screen now, is teams grouping a theme on each screen. So in this example, the person had reference material on the far left. Unfortunately, it's a PDF, I think. So maybe that's not always the best example. In the middle, he was very clear on his approach to his modeling space. It's his primary modeling space. The teams were very clear that they like to use the Revit tabs and have a couple of Revit tabs available to jump between, so GAs and a good 3D view. They were quite vocal about not liking tiled views and saying that it just gets messy and it's not really that helpful, which was quite interesting feedback. And then the last screen is tools and files. So you can see they've really extended out their tools panels to see information, see data. And then they're obviously also looking at a couple of files. The next trend that we saw, and this is what I was hoping to see, is a combination of authoring tools and a combination of viewing and coordination tools. So yeah, you can see the user's got his tools for authoring and modeling, open on the left, and he's got a viewer and a coordination tool on the far right. So it's Revit on the left and Navisworks on the right. That was really what I was wanting to see. And I think we generally saw that as a bit of a trend. The last option that one of the users came up with was quite advanced, at least to me. So he didn't have 1 screen option, he had 3 screen options. And what he does is he uses the Windows task view to customize desktops. So he comes in every day and he customizes desktop. He's very organized about how he's dealing and toggling between different desktop options. So you had a 3-screen setup for communication, for modeling and drawing, and then coordination and modeling. So quite a more detailed look at how screen layout works, but I definitely felt that this user had very good spatial awareness around how he was working, and I believe that would lead to having less clashes, or at least him causing less clashes. All right, then jumping into clash standards and processes. So before I get into clash standards themselves, I think with BIM 360 and ACC, information flows is really important. The tools are quite simple. You have sort of carte blanche in some ways of how you can set folders up. You have to have quite a strict, or at least quite a good understanding of how you want information to flow within BIM 360 and ACC. And that relates to eventually to how you do coordination or design review or clash detection. So in this setup, you'll see that I've got all the different modules listed on the left. We've got document management, design collaboration, and model coordination. And then we have our dashboarding, which is obviously external at this stage for us through Power BI. And then we've got a very distinct approach to how we deal with Revit models and how we deal with, say, Navisworks models within the work in progress state, shared, published, and archived in ISO 19650 terminology. So the takeout here is just understand what you want your information flow to do for you. Understand how the different modules can allow you to move information in different files from one work state to another work state. So for example, with the work in progress, we will use design collaboration to move information into the shared area. When we move information from the shared area to the published area, we'll use the review we'll build review workflows to move that information across. Also key to this is understanding where you want to do things. So where do you want to do clash detection? Do you want to do clash detection on work in progress information? Do you maybe want to do some clash detection reporting on shared information? And then in your published area, is that an area that you want to actively work with your client and use as their issue management area for placing pins on models and deliverables? So you really need to give that some detailed thought. Then diving into our actual clash detection standards, we've actually overhauled them a little bit recently because features are changing quite rapidly around us and tools are advancing, and we've had to go back and refresh our approach. So looking at that approach, we looked at 6 different key things around clash detection. The first one was, how do we access federated models? We obviously now got the option with model coordination to have the models located on the cloud, and we can point Navisworks at those models on the cloud. That's a huge advancement to how we used to work with Navisworks. With clash detection tests, we'd sort of gone down a route where we had themed clash detection tests, and we had lots of clash detection tests, actually over 300 different tests that we would use as a standard, and we sort of felt that we were starting to trip up over that standard as we try to scale it out. Clash grouping, you've now got a clash grouping tool within Navisworks. Definitely you had third-party add-ins that did that previously, but that kind of changes the landscape a bit around how detailed your clash tests need to be, because you can now use clash grouping to really get some granularity in your clash tests. The next one is team engagement. Keep it simple type approach. Roles and responsibilities is always a thing when it comes to coordination and clash detection. It's not the BIM manager's role to do clash detection, or at least to solve clashes. It's the design team's responsibility. Yet we often see the BIM manager doing some of those tasks, or at least getting a little bit more involved than what they should. The next one is clash resolution, and we've separated clash resolution and clash and reporting. We found that we maybe sometimes were too hyper-focused on reporting on clashes and weren't thinking enough about how we effectively give clash information to teams, or how effectively teams can access clash information themselves even to effectively update those clashes and resolve them, versus having a very much so mindset around clash detection to produce a report. Obviously, reporting is important, so that was a factor in some of our updated standards. So then we took those key focus areas, and we embedded some of the new features and some of the new concepts that we wanted to apply. So, for example, for accessing federated models, master NWFs and work in progress NWFs on BIM 360 or in model coordination, really nice new advancements. Clash grouping, we got the clash tool. So we went and embedded those different features onto this layout. I won't go through all of them now, but that was kind of the way that we processed the information to work it out. Okay, so this is what our current clash detection process looks like. Looking at it, you might say, well, we haven't exactly kept it simple, Craig. The reality is we work on big projects and there are complexities to working on big projects, and we work with big teams and there's complexities. So this is what our clash detection approach looks like for large, complicated projects. And we've taken the approach where we've mapped it out and we've really looked at what does each role do. So what does a BIM manager do? What does a design manager or lead designer do? What does a discipline design lead do? What are the different roles or different stakeholders, and what tasks do they do? So we've mapped that out in different swim lanes, and we've been very specific about who does what, and then we've also tried to start shifting the approach a little bit. So we're bringing the discipline design lead into the process, whereas what we had found in the past that clash detection and model coordination often was seen to be a modeler thing or a BIM thing, and designers were, divorced from it. So we've gone away, we've remapped it, we've looked at the process in 4 steps. So obviously the BIM managers in the sort of cyan color, the BIM managers involved in some of the setup. As quickly as possible, he gets NWF files out to the team. The team then use those NWF files for the full duration of the project. They use that to run their own internal meetings. Once they've done some of their own internal meetings, that goes and moves out to a shared area where there is more sort of weekly coordination done at a high level. We bring the design manager front and center into that process to support that. And we run those two discipline and interdiscipline or work in progress and shared approach next to one another over weekly cycles. And then obviously at a point of issue or milestone, you then get to issuing that information out. So we've been quite specific in our approach. You'll see that it uses model coordination and it uses Navisworks for different things. We use NWF files for work in progress. We use NWF files for shared, and we output obviously NWD files because often that is a requirement from the client side. One of the pain points in this process still is how to update statuses in Navisworks. Something like model coordination has the not an issue feature, which is quite nice. But Navisworks is still a little bit awkward as to how somebody can go into model, look at clashes, and then update the status of that clash, especially when it comes to trying to do that in a multi-user environment. So the lessons that we've learned so far with model coordination and Navisworks, publish times can take a while. We've had a few challenges with publish times. So just allow for that in your workflow. And in your process. If somebody publishes a big model, it's not going to be available instantaneously. So you need to have a process that's flexible to work with that. The next one is do not publish sheets if not completely essential. Now that might be a bit controversial to some. The fully integrated approach would be publish your Revit model, publish your sheets, your Revit sheets, do review on that model and on those Revit sheets. I think for small to medium-sized projects, that is suitable. I think for very, very big projects or maybe even projects that still have very complicated model setups, we find that the time to process sheets slows things down and it becomes a little bit counterproductive. So if you don't absolutely need it, turn your sheets off and your publish times are going to be faster. Then turn off clashes and model coordination. So model coordination, you now obviously have the feature to be able to turn this feature off. If you're doing clash detection in Navisworks, turn the model coordination clashes off. It'll help with processing time into model coordination. So that's another key thing that we've found there. Great, so I'm going to hand over to Shashwat and Namit, and they're going to talk us through some of the reporting and dashboarding that we've been involved with them and some sort of industry insights. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Greg. Reporting and dashboarding to make the clash process much more productive. There is no better way than dashboarding to aggregate all of your important project metrics in one place. Reporting and dashboarding help you identify trends and patterns and enable you to make the informed decisions. It is also perhaps one of the prime attractions on LinkedIn to have fancy visualizations. However, in order to make your project decisions data-driven, it is important to utilize the correct data in the correct way. Not all dashboards create equal value. In this section, we will talk about our efforts and learning lessons around reporting and dashboarding to make the clash process much more productive. As we all know, data export is the first place to start this process. So let's look at the data export option in our context. There are multiple ways by which we can extract the data to capture the actionable information from the BIM models or from cloud projects. From the Autodesk Construction Cloud, in product reporting features, we can extract the issue reports directly from the web application. We can export issue summary report, issue details report containing the issue list with status, type, title, description, and root causes and due date. This is simple export and does not require any customization of the tool. Now, if you need to customize the data reporting and would like to create your own BI dashboards, then you can extract the account level data of the ACC project with the help of Data Connector. Data Connector offers you the flexibility to analyze the data using your own business intelligence tools with low level of code integration. Furthermore, from the Insight tools in Construction Cloud platform, you can connect the data from partner application to your Insights dashboards. This means you don't have to switch between application, as you can view all the relevant project data in single area to provide a holistic view of the project performance. There are chances that the data insights from the in-product features are not providing you the required information, and hence, with the help of Forge-based APIs, you can access the design and engineering data and customize it based on your project requirement. This requires high code involvement. Moreover, directly from the Navisworks application, you can export clash reports, viewpoint reports, etc. And we will discuss this in our coming slides, how AECOM has created dashboards to capture the trend of clashes to provide the insight on coordination. Now, before we go to the data connector, we would like to highlight the current issue management features differences between BIM 360 and ACC projects. There are some substantial features that are now added in ACC issue management as compared to BIM 360. In BIM 360, there is no option to import the issues in bulk. However, using ACC, we can bulk import the issues using Excel sheets. The referencing option also are limited in BIM 360 currently, and we can only link or refer the RFIs, assets, files as references. But in Autodesk Construction Cloud platform, you can add additional references to the issues such as sheets, photos, project schedule, and more. This would allow users to better communicate the information during the issue management process. It is not possible to publish or unpublish the issues in BIM 360. However, in ACC, you can create private issues, and after filling all the relevant information, you can then publish the issues. We had received a lot of requests from the customer who want to delete the issues in BIM 360. The good news is now in Autodesk Construction Cloud projects, If by mistake you have created any issue, you can delete them permanently. Last but not the least, in Autodesk Construction Cloud Platform, we can customize the company logo in the issue reports, but BIM 360 currently don't have this functionality in place. With that, let's discuss the in-product reporting from Data Connector. If you need to customize the information and create your own business intelligence dashboards, then you can also extract the account level or project level data from the ACC project with the help of Data Connector. Data Connector offers you the flexibility to analyze the data using your own BI tools with low level of code integration. And currently there are two ways by which you can extract the ACC data using Data Connector. You can either download the CSV report in your local system and capture the insights, or directly in my Microsoft Power BI with the help of certified Autodesk Construction Cloud Connector, you can get that data and create your own BI dashboards. Once you have integrated the Data Connector in Power BI, then you do not have to worry about the data sync, as it will automatically sync the data based on the sync frequency that you have set in your Autodesk Construction Cloud project. And if you need further customization in Data Connector, then with the help of the Data Connector Forge-based API, you can do it. Now, this is one of the dashboard samples that we developed as a proof of concept with AECOM to showcase the integration of the account level insight with the help of ACC Data Connector in Power BI. This dashboard is capturing the account level information of the total number of issues created at account level. We can then filter this information the issues created by company, by type, by status, and this also showing the timeline of the creation of date with the status. From the dashboard, the custom attribute information such as priority and discipline, what AECOM has added in the issues template, that can be added in the issue details, and this can also be captured via this dashboard. This is the live data integration, and we can filter the issues created by project type, company, and with other attributes. Hence, by incorporating the data and analytics in your project workflows, you can streamline operations and optimize the project delivery. With that, I will hand over to Namit, and Namit will tell us and give some insights on Forge-based data attraction. Over to you, Namit.
Well, thank you, Shashwat. Let's talk a little about Autodesk Forge as the next data export option. Forge is Autodesk's cloud development platform. The Forge platform is a set of web services APIs, which can be used to build innovative cloud-powered applications. Now, since we've been talking about ACC and BIM 360, it would be interesting to add that both ACC and BIM 360 are based on top of Forge. And that means your files, your issues, clashes, and pretty much everything on BIM 360 and ACC is accessible and controllable via Forge. You can automate stuff. Think about getting a WhatsApp notification when somebody uploads a file on Docs. From automating these little tasks to design automation and much beyond, you can use Forge to create digital twins, visualize and analyze data, integrate AR and VR, and a lot more. Now, coming back to visualization, some of the relevant APIs for us in the context of reporting and visualizing clashes were account admin, model coordination, and issues. The model coordination APIs provides information around coordination spaces, models, views, and clashes. So we developed a proof of concept to bring in this data using Forge model coordination APIs into Power BI, which could then be used to provide an overview of clashes in the selected project. The POC also offered visualization for clash progress, distribution, categories, and resolved clashes versus total. The timeline of clashes with status was intended to provide a trend line and relevant filters to select project type, company, and roles allowed to narrow down on the data and get precise information. Also, we were not able to utilize this dashboard into the main project this was intended for, because we decided not to use model coordination standalone in this project because of the project requirements, which sort of takes us back to our initial slides where we talked about factors that govern what to use. But in the projects where model coordination standalone is a reasonable option, AECOM might want to convert this proof of concept into production in the future. Now, creating something like this does require a bit of programming, database, and Power BI skills, but in the long term, the gains could be sort of worth it. If you have many projects using standalone model coordination. Now, let's take a look at the final and the most conventional way to utilize data: export and import. This is once again a clash dashboard, but this takes in data from Navisworks. It provides a trend line of clashes to provide insights on coordination, detailed clash information by package and discipline, and also clashes are distributed by status and priority level. This is something that requires human inputs and is a manual process. Let's get on to the next slide to have a look at the secret recipe to build this. Well, not a secret anymore. So basically we collate source files like NWCs into NWFs and get XMLs from the respective NWFs. The XMLs contain clash details, priority levels, disciplines, and other attributes coming from Navisworks. The next step is to drop these XMLs from different teams into a defined location over SharePoint as seen in the diagram. The data from XML gets federated into an Excel spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet becomes the data source for our Power BI report. With that, I'll pass it over to Craig.
Great, thanks, Namit. So dashboarding, we've definitely been learning some lessons around the importance of different dashboards for different features within the different tools. One thing we have found and that people should be aware of is the danger of chasing clashes and as a sort of a number or a KPI, and losing sight on just good quality design coordination. We have had some instances where team have been too hyper focused on the numbers and haven't been focused on quality coordination. The other one is just having a plan around what you want to dashboard. So set your BIM 360 and your ACC up in a way that is suitable for downstream dashboarding of information. So if you're going to dashboard issues, make sure that you've organized the way that you use issues. Make sure that you have organized the way that you maybe set up custom attributes for issues, so that you can dashboard or have effective dashboards further down the line on the project. Some of the really positive things that we're getting out of dashboards, project insights with minimal human effort. We're working on fairly large projects. It's not always possible to check everything manually and all the time. So we really get really great insights with minimal human effort, which is great. We can really use those insights to make key decisions on projects. Then transparency is a big one. You cannot hide when all the data is just pushing into a dashboard. So you can very quickly see which teams are engaged, which teams are behind on things, potentially where there's problems. So it's really great to have that sort of level of transparency. And then the last thing is, driving positive team engagement. I think dashboards are one of those special things that pull different team members together. Historically, often you've had designers, separated away from modeling. And it's one of those things that now pull modeling teams and design teams together, and also pulls in some of the other key stakeholders in projects. Lead designers, project managers, that sort of thing. So we're really seeing great team engagement, and that's really helping us move things forward. Thanks, Namit. Let's move to the next slide. Okay, so the next section is a couple of suggestions from our side. We work with the tools a lot. We sometimes give Autodesk a bit of a hard time. They're putting out a lot of features all the time for us into tools, and we always want more. But there's most probably a few things that we would still like to see. One of the first things is a truly multi-user environment. especially around how you update clash statuses. So model coordination has it. You can go in, say something's not an issue, but within the Navisworks environment, that's still very awkward, how you can get that to work. We've been trying a couple of different things. We've been using Dynamo scripts to help with that, but have tripped up with a few things there recently. The next one is a UI revamp. So, you know, Navisworks is quite old now. It's been around the block, and we definitely feel that it could do with an interface update. It's very technical in nature at the moment, and that makes probably sometimes drives the wrong stigma around it. And I think there's definitely other tools on the market that you know, the UI is really helping with a positive stigma and breaking the stigma of it just being a technical BIM tool, you know. The next one is, you know, we really feel that the Revit product team could do some more work around handling how publish views work and protecting teams against mistakes with publish views. So we often will have teams publish a view and then forget links on or certain items. And it's very easy for a team member to make that mistake. And with a few tweaks here and there, maybe just in Revit, you could really protect against that a bit better. So we'd like to see that. And then the last one, you can see that we're doing a lot of proof of concepts around dashboards. We obviously also have a lot of dashboards active on our projects. And a lot of that effort has been done outside of the tools and tools like Power BI and that sort of thing. It would really be great to see some more advancement and out of the box dashboards within BIM 360 and ACC. And I'm fairly confident we will see that in the future in ACC. So that was just a sort of constructive feedback from our side on features and improvements that we'd like to see. So I'd just like to thank everybody for joining the session. Yeah, please do reach out on socials to either one of us, and we'll answer any questions that you may have. So thanks a lot.